while you're snuggled up in your cardigan over there in the mountains, Taylor Swift had a busy weekend making headlines after she slammed President Donald Trump over the current battle of the U.S. Postal Service. So, in a series of tweets posted on Saturday, Taylor slammed Donald Trump, his handling of the Postal Service in particular, saying Trump's calculated dismantling of USPS proves one thing clearly. He is well aware that we do not want him as our president. He's chosen to blatantly cheat and put millions of Americans' lives at risk in an effort to hold on to power. She goes on to say that Donald Trump's ineffective leadership gravely worsened the crisis that we are in, and he is now taking advantage of it to subvert and destroy our right to vote and vote safely. She tells her fans, request a ballot early, vote early. So obviously Taylor's
Wow.
message, I know, right? It's amazing how much she has grown into her political voice, which we'll get into a little bit. But I do want to note that her message comes 2 days after Trump seemingly admitted on Fox Business that he was intentionally withholding money from the United States Postal
Mhm.
Service, which of course would ultimately disrupt the USPS's ability to manage mail-in voting for the election in November. And considering that we're in the middle of a pandemic, Katie, it's like we got to figure that out
Well,
ASAP because a lot of people do not want to
ASAP.
show up in person. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to even I mean, let's talk about Taylor a little bit, but just so people know, you can request a ballot early and you can make
Yes.
sure to send that ballot in early. So I just want everyone to be aware of that. But I also think that we should change Taylor's name to possibly Taylor Political Queen Swift because of how much she's used her platform and her voice to really
Yeah.
shed light on the importance of this and getting involved and voting and using each individual vote to make a difference. It's just really impressive how much she's grown and how effective I think her voice is in the political world. Like you wouldn't think it is, but it is. Like she's making headlines, she's speaking
Yeah.
out, and every time that she tweets about this, I mean, you can look at the favorites, you can look at the retweets, and how much traction she's
Hmm.
getting on there. And it's just so important. What do you
For
What do you
sh-
think?
well, I think she's very aware of her platform and of her large following, and it's all about how you use that platform, right? And so for someone like Taylor, like obviously this is not the first time she's tweeted about Trump, and in fact, just in May, she called him out for threatening violence against protesters in Minnesota following George Floyd's death at the hands of police, and she tweeted in part at that point tagging Donald Trump, "We will vote
Yeah.
you out in November." She's also talked about Trump in her Miss Americana documentary on Netflix. But my question, I guess, for you, Katie, is for someone who's literally kind of talked about why she has decided to finally not sit quietly on political issues, have you been surprised by like how direct she's been to the point where she's even just calling out and tagging Donald Trump? Have you been surprised by that?
That's a good question. I'm not surprised because I think if anything, we've seen Taylor and this growth of hers. It's almost like a self-growth and a self-awakening over the few years. I mean, even if you look at the situation with Big Machine Records and how she really was vocal about that situation. I think she's not afraid to use her voice, and I think she's was silenced for so long because she came up in the
Mhm.
country music world as a female and she was always told, I mean, she talks about this in the documentary, you have to be a good little girl, you kind of have to be quiet, you have to smile and nod and be pretty, and I think
Right.
she's really come into her own, and so I'm not surprised. I'm impressed by how educated she's become and how she's really educated herself on all of these elections. I mean, even at the state level, a couple years back, I believe, she was tweeting about the Tennessee elections and
Hmm.
really giving her fans facts about the different candidates in that race. So I'm not
Right.
surprised. Are you surprised as someone who doesn't follow her as closely as me and maybe there's
Right.
some misconceptions out there
You know what? I'm
of
gonna
her?
say I'm not surprised, and I also just feel like it's because what other choice do we have? You know what I mean? You can be on the right side of history or not, and I just also I want to make a note that Taylor's not the first, nor will she be the last celebrity to kind of be outspoken on political or social issues or using their platform for good. But right now, I think this is a reflection of just how crucial this November election is, and
Oh yeah.
and I will also say that I feel like because of the pandemic, we're in this moment where things have slowed down for a lot of people, and so people are waking up, they're paying attention, and everything that's going on in the world is really hard to ignore. And so you can't help someone like Taylor Swift, who again is really stepping into her political voice. You can't blame her for really, really speaking out on these issues and being so passionate about it too. I'm just curious how it will impact her music.
So I'm going to say it's not going to impact her music, and I think the release of Folklore is proof of that because for the
Yeah,
third week in a row, she's at the top of the Billboard Top 200.
yeah.
So I know that that was a big concern, I think initially for her team in speaking out politically, but I think she's proven it doesn't matter. People are still going to listen to her music. Obviously, we don't have concerts right now, but I would
Yeah.
go. I would say, I would predict that that Folklore concert, when she announces those tour dates, if she announces tour dates, will also have no problem selling out like all of her
Because
past
it's Taylor
concerts.
Swift.
So it's Taylor Swift. I don't think
Yeah.
her speaking out is going to affect her career at all. If
But
anything,
again,
I think it makes us love her and embrace her even more.
I agree. Absolutely.